Talent Reimagine, Minding the Gap. May I now call upon stage Mr. Mohit Soni, CEO, Media and Entertainment Skill Council, Mr. Manvendra Shukul, CEO, Relaxia Digital, Mr. Sameer Jain, Managing Director, Primus Partners, Mr. Ashish Kulkarni, Founder, Punayug Art Vision, Mr. Shrikant Sinha, CEO, Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge, and Mr. Vikrant Kapoor, VP HR APAC, Technicolor Creative Studios. Would request Mr. Mohit Soni to kindly take the discussions forward, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session, which we're going to be talking about talent reimagined. And it's a proud moment for me to share this stage today with two of my gurus, Ashish ji and Manvendra sir, who have been a guiding force certainly to make me throughout this journey of the Sector Skill Council, and then Anuj sir is our governing member, and Biren ji. But before we get into the round of discussions, I thought it'll be a good idea. Almost everybody knows them, the best of the industry people sitting here and being acknowledged to talk about talent reimagined. But it'll be a good idea if 1 minute of time all of you could take to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Vikrant. I care for all of our people at Technicolor across Asia Pacific. I'm new to the industry, about a year old, but absolutely stoked to be here amongst this absolutely fabulous folks, talent of storytellers.
Thank you. My name is Shrikant and I look after Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge. Been in the field of education, training, development for last 36 plus years. Prior to joining Task Telangana, I was CEO of NASCOM Foundation, where I led the digital literacy program for Government of India along with Government of MeitY, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Been into the field of, I used to head Arena Multimedia way back in 97, 98 for the Middle East in those days. So, indeed a pleasure for me to be present over here and represent Government of Telangana as well as the skilling ecosystem itself. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. My name is Ashish Kulkarni. I am the founder of Screenyug Creations Private Limited and Punayug Art Vision Private Limited. I actually create animation shows. I was also on the Animation Gaming Visual Effects Comics Task Force. And in Punayug, we are creating an art village in Lonavala, which is first home for creative arts, performing arts, design, sports, and earth sciences. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Sameer Jain. I'm a managing director with Primus Partners. I've had the privilege of assisting the Government of India in designing the AVGC policy and the National Center of Excellence on AVGC, and the honor of working with many of the people on the stage here and also in the audience in learning about the potential that AVGC sector has for India. A legacy is being made, and I'm very happy to be a part of the journey that AVGC will be.
My name is Manvendra Shukul. I've been in the gaming and animation, mostly gaming industry for 25 plus years. I founded Lakshya, which is a game development services company. And the Lakshya is also part of Keywords, which is the largest game development services company in the world. And gaming has been a passion for me. That's why I've been around for such a long time. And for the past quite a few years, my passion has been education in this space, because I felt that that is something which has really not caught anybody's attention in the way it should. And that's why I've been trying to see what is it that we can do in this space to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And if you would have noticed, it's a very diverse panel which we have today. People coming from the HR background, to people representing the state, then our guru in animation, our guru in gaming, and somebody who consolidated the report for the Government of India and presented it in the form of the draft AVGC policy. So, everybody has been talking about AVGC, and I think that's one big thing which I really appreciate, and I think we all deserve a round of applause before we start this panel discussion. for the air which has been created around the AVGC. And I think any meetings which I have been going in, whether related to industries or whether related to ministries, I have seen this word now quite often being talked about. In fact, just before this meeting, we had a session in Kaushal Bhavan where the Honorable Minister himself again spoke about AVGC. So I think that's a wonderful initiative to look at. But while it's all there in the stage of finalization with the cabinet approvals and all, Ashiji, first question I would like to put to you, because I think you have been instrumental along with many other members in the group for defining this AVGC policy. But what do you foresee as the AVGC policy's impact in the skilling and the education space? And how do you see that could benefit, by and large, the education fraternity, whether it is the formal format or the vocational education system?
Well, first of all, I want to correct you that we are not instrumental in creating air about animation, gaming, visual effects, comics. We have built a brand in reality, and it is built with the hard work of people since 1996-97 onwards. Secondly, the policy intervention was badly needed because India, when actually became independent and we had education structured in India in 1956, we actually wanted to become industrial nation, and we had English, maths, physics, chemistry, mathematics, history, geography, civics, economics. We forgot about creative arts, performing arts, and design and sports to be put into the curriculum. And we had, I would say, a stepmotherly treatment to these careers. People always were pushed to do extracurricular activities in these sectors, but were actually pushed to become engineers, doctors, and all. That story has become very old. But somewhere we wanted to change that. And how would you change that? And you asked me a question, how did the policy help? So you all know about the National Education Policy 2020. And I must tell you that India would be known pre-2020 and post-2020 in the field of education, because it's a remarkable change. It's something that allowed kids to take creative arts, performing arts, design, and sports along with science or commerce or history, geography, civics, or languages. So this is a subject which gets marks at par with science and commerce. So it required a policy intervention to allow that to the kids. We have implemented in CBSE, it's getting implemented in many state boards. If it was not through the policy, it would have taken convincing effort for every school, every board, and everywhere. Even today, with the policy, we are still going around and convincing, and you are involved with that convincing process. Same way in the field of higher education. When it comes to the universities have misconception. They thought that it's all about engineering, and many people thought animation engineering and visual effects engineering. And then they had to be told that there has to be a concept of not only a arts faculty or a science faculty, but you need to have something called as faculty of arts and sciences put together. Because today we are dealing with subjects which are evolving, dealing with faculties which are evolving, which requires arts and science to work together. And if it was not through the policy, this change would not have happened so easily. So that's why when you have an AVGC policy, an integral part of skilling, because it was deprived in the nook and corner of India today, with a recognition, even with the industry having 10 lakh plus people in the film and television. If you ask me how many people have degrees or certification, hardly not more than even 3,000-4,000 people. And that's why I'm saying the proper related degree or this thing. And that's why the policy intervention also had recognition of prior learning, that you recognize their skill and their experience and give them a certification which is equivalent to a degree or a diploma that they can use to actually go into the formal education and look at the credit banking system that is coming up. And that's why in India, the policy intervention is extremely important. When you do the skill gap analysis, when you do the estimation of the industry growing, and especially the AVGC industry, which is going to go 20 times more in next 10 years, the skills requirement and the manpower requirement is also going to add to the whole thing. It's like a pyramid. The more the people come in the bottom of the pyramid, more the people actually joining in the middle of pyramid, and the upward mobility of these people is going to actually build the industry and its strengths. And that's why the policy paying probably equal attention then for ease of doing business and incentive, and equal attention to skilling and education is extremely important, because that's where you had a resonance and people welcome you more with open arms when it was a part of the policy and the task force was announced. And that's why you see that the brand AVGC today is welcome into education sector and also into the informal education sector equally well.
Thank you, sir. And I'll take my words back on the air, but I would say the air for the brand AVGC. Moving forward, I just wanted to hint all of you, with this AVGC policy, when it was being announced, the draft was being announced. Since then, there has been a huge, I would say, result which we have seen coming in from higher education system and the school education system. And thanks to all the members who were involved and everybody who helped in promoting this. Moving to Manveen, sir, and talking about the most complex of the question, which I think the industry needs an answer from you, sir. Running the biggest of the game studio in the country and world globally today, we have seen that while gaming is one subject which every student is very excited about, but at this point of time, it seems too early to actually understand to what level of gaming the training institutions should offer, and what level of curriculum, what level of trainers should be deployed in order to make this dream come true of making sure that the gaming artists which we produce are the best globally, not just nationally.
I think first and the most important thing is that the term gaming itself is very deceptive, because it's the moment you say gaming, we start talking about only creative side of things. But gaming is one I would say medium, one industry where it is almost like a gathering of all these different skills you can think of. You need animation skills, you need design skills, you need art skills, you need technology skills, you need basically engineering skills, and you need you need testing skills, you need localization skills. There's so much that goes under this one name or one term, gaming. So when you talk about talent, you talk about skilling. First, one has to look at what segment or what section of that entire production or that creative side or technical side you really are looking at skilling for. And that's where I think most of the times we have gone wrong. We have not really looked at what are we training for. And there has been such a big disconnect between the expectation of the industry and what our understanding of skilling in this space is. That's the reason I feel that most of the times, we are not able to put in place a framework which will provide education which is relevant for the industry. And that's where I think we all need to work. When I say we all, I mean I basically look at the industry, because there has to be that bridge or that association or that understanding between the industry and the academic side of the story, where both of them have to come together to try and figure out what is it that can be defined as the right education as well as skilling, because education and skilling are two very different things. So I think that's where the whole point is, that what is it that we need to put in place, that framework, the policy that Ashish talked about. It talks about a basic framework of what skilling and education needs to be. And that is where I think we need to focus in terms of bringing the industry perspective to that. And that is something which is missing. And industry perspective can come in only when the industry participates in it. And so that is where our attempt has been, that what is it that we can do to bring insights to the real requirements of the industry within the academic framework that we are trying to build. We have a policy, we have a new education system which is falling in place, but then that education system also needs to, from a gaming perspective, needs to look at what are the points where some interventions are required and who needs to provide those interventions. Keeping it only in the academic space may not necessarily get us the results that we want. There has to be a combination of academics and the industry, and what the academies can define how it can, what needs to be, how it needs to be done, but the industries define what needs to be done. So this two parameters, I think, have to work together.
So we would like to have some more mantras from you, maybe offline. But I think this is one big area where I feel the industry should really come forward and support the training institutions, may it be in terms of development of curriculum or support in development of trainers. And I know, sir, there has been a lot of support which you have been extending from your side, and thanks for that. But maybe some more mantras from your side during the panel session continue, sir. We would love to hear that. So while Samir has been instrumental in shaping through the AVGC draft policy, which is in the cabinet approval right now, Samir has also been a part with us for developing the skill gap report, which MESC is going to be releasing most likely by end of this month. So Samir, going with a deep dive understanding and the market research which we have done for both of these policies, which have been more or less in shape now, where do you see that the talent in the country is missing the space, or what do you feel is the benchmarking where the global market is looking forward for, and are we ready for it or are we prepared for it, is my question to you.
Thank you, Mohit. Very recently, I was in a meeting with one of the government think tanks, and they were reading a report where they asked me a very simple question that on one hand, you say that the AVGC sector in India is growing at 22% year on year, which is an amazing thing. But at the same time, you're also saying that there is a significant skill deficit, both in numbers as well as in quality. And here you are talking about a 20 lakh kind of an employment generation opportunity that exists in the sector in the next 10 years. So it was a good question, very counterintuitive also, that if the sector is already growing, why do we need a policy? Let it happen. I mean, it's a common knowledge. If there is a demand in the market, there would be training partners who will go and train them. So my answer to them was very different, and made me also think when we were doing this report that we are doing with you, was that is it really about the numbers of people, right? Yes, the global AVGC market will be more than $800 billion in a very short span of time. And India currently, when it stands at less than 1%, can become a 5% market if we do it the right way. And that's where the policy is helping it towards. Yet, if you look at the larger volume of the demand that we have, it still is on the lower side of the value chain. And that's where the larger revenue realization that India has in AVGC is still like how IT sector used to experience way back 2 decades ago. So that's one problem. Yes, if India is playing a big role in creating global content, then yes, we should cater to that demand and in large volume, but that's just one part of the solution. The other, I think, is, of course, something that we are trying to address in this policy is that, yes, we still are skilling people and in thousands, but still somebody was saying that it is still looked at as a technology skill. But that's just 30% of the skill set, where people are using some of the softwares and helping create the market. But what about the crafts part that Secretary MOIB was talking about? That's where the education at the schools levels, at the college levels, where we are not using this as one elective or one off course, but really integrating arts, drama, music, very deep rooted into the school education and higher education, where people do understand that AVGC is a career to have, and hence an early investment into that education is necessary, is also what we are trying to address. And what it will do is help us move up the value chain. Today, if we are just 1%, then, and the content, even if you look at some of the global or world-class movies, the kind of content that we have picked up as part of even those global brands is very small work, but not the high-end work. So the intent with this skilling report or the ideas is to move up the value chain is something that's very important. But there is another angle that at least you and I have discussed, and I think it's important for people to know. unlike any other skilling that we see, we are skilling people for an industry which could be geographically concentrated. Let's say if we were training people in IT, yes, we would have an IT industry in Mumbai or Bangalore, Chennai or so. But AVGC is very different, right? Now, sir, in the morning, if you have heard, he talked about one of the pilots that we have helped them execute is to pick up 100 students or young people from the Northeast India and then train them onto best of the technologies on AVGC and ensure that they are well placed in the industry. And industry is also very, very receptive to this. But what would happen is that these 100 students would leave their states and then move to a Bangalore or a Mumbai, which is a very traditional skilling model that we will do anyways. But AVGC is different in the fact that India has story to tell from every nook and corner of the country. You have a Manipuri culture, Manipuri heritage, you have the Bhojpuri, you have the Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakhi culture and stories. Now, what do you do if you skill these people? They will go to these, but where are those stories that they're not even exposed to and they don't know how to take these stories forward? And that's where at least both Mohit and I have been doing with the skilling report is to really change the narrative where skilling is just one of the inputs to the larger strategy for AVGC, is to see what states could do, is to invite the industry over to the geographies, right? What incentives that they need to provide. Once the industry finds that they should come and set up shops in a Sikkim or a Manipur or a Bihar or a Ladakh, then when that industry is created, two things will happen. The industry will need skilled people. That's when the skilling programs will become more effective. But then there is a bigger argument to make with this skilling is that once you have an industry here and skilled people also to cater to that demand, that's when you're able to create local stories for global consumption. So why not we hear about Ladakh, or why not we hear about Manipur and so on, which amazing stories they have. And when we do it the right way, then skilling becomes the right catalyst to have. So to a long answer to your short question. So what this report is doing is just not taking very tactical view of what the demand is and what skills that we need, but we are actually saying that skilling does become the meaningful journey to create the industry that we are all here for.
Thank you, Samir. Although it leaves me a lot of confusion every time, whenever I think about we as a country doing the best of the animation films here, doing the best of the AAA games here, and still we feel that we cannot produce that quality. So I feel very surprised about it. Although, Shrikantji, I would save you for the best of my question. So I will move directly to Vikrant. Vikrant, my confusion has been to understand in the last 25 years of my career in this sector. Every time I go, everywhere I go, people talk about skill gap. So heading in one of the finest studios in the world, Technicolor, as VPHR, what is skill gap? Actually, I really want to understand what is skill gap and where do we feel we are missing out? And when you identify the talent from Technicolor, where does this come from?
It's a very loaded question, but I'm going to respond to it. I come from a consulting background and I've been doing a little bit of research. Between the last year and this year, the revenues of the AVGC of our sector grew by about 22% to $26 billion. Expected to rise to nearly 30 billion in the next 1 year. Before we turn this decade, we pretty much have trebled our revenues, which is huge. Honestly, as such, we haven't experienced the full force of talent challenges that other industry like the IT and ITES industry have faced in the recent past. I think, and I'll come to the skill gap question in a bit, but I think a large part of our challenges will come from within the activity that will happen in this space in the country. I think we have realized the power of the Indian content for Indian masses. There's a lot more Indian content available on Netflix, Amazon Prime, pretty much everywhere we watch now. So there's a lot of need for talent coming from new studios, boutique studios that have set up. Now, which obviously means that our talent has become a lot more transient across all the new firms that have set up. A lot of our contemporary firms across the globe have been setting up shop in India, which again increases the ask for talent, good talent across the industry. I think we will continue to face skill shortages from a perspective of movement of talent in lookout for better work look out for better compensation, look out for better opportunities and better experiences. These are all organic challenges. I think and I'm going to talk about inorganic challenge opportunities and then another big challenge. I think the big turn or the big inflection point for the industry and for talent in India is going to be when we are able to work towards, when we are able to get ahead of the skill curve. Really, today I think we are responding to the changes in the marketplace. We've got generative AI, we've got a lot of new technologies coming in, and there's also a fear which is developing in the market, will I lose my job? Honestly, I think in the last 20 years, 22 years, since the coming in of internet, since the coming in of AI machine learning, there hasn't been a loss of jobs. If anything, more people are employed across industries, right? So that fear of job loss is actually unfounded. I think as an industry, we have an opportunity of getting ahead of the skill curve, right? That's where we have to develop the talent. Instead of having another firm, which is an expert at artificial intelligence, neurolinguistic programming, generative AI, and other similar solutions coming up and disrupting our industry, I think the challenge and the opportunity lies for us in getting ahead and working with some of those big, large firms like Microsoft, Amazon, and see how we can disrupt the skillscape ahead of it disrupting us, right? And I think that's where we have to drive our challenge to. That is where truly, I believe, we have a significant shortage of talent at the convergence of creative as well as technology skills. I think the other place where we have shortage of talent is the talent that can catapult or that can pole vault our industry to a different space, a different orbit, which is our top talent. I'm pretty certain that TCS, along with our other contemporaries, have a significant pool of top talent, but is it enough to create an exponential push in terms of ready talent, which can create extremely electrifying experiences for our customers? I don't think we are at that point where we have that threshold of talent which can create that push. The third is, I think, more traditional, and we've been talking about it, right? We are a country of storytellers. There's so much legacy and there's so much mythology and there's so many legends in our history, right? It's a societal structure at a point where a lot of our young talent is being progressively spearheaded into the direction of this industry. I think there's a whole lot of pullback from families on, there's a sense of skepticism, right? Is this the right place? Are my children going to earn as much as they are going to earn as a part of a traditional role or a position? I think these are some of the things where we have key shortages that we have to address, right? More at a fundamental level where we have more students. There's a sense of pride in a aspiration. Undergraduate students wanting to pick up courses, right? I think those are the places where we have this shortage of talent coming in from.
So nicely explained, Vikrant. Thank you. And I really wish once we have identified this, we find the areas during this panel discussion how to fill it as well. I think there'll be something which will be very important for all of us to understand. Shrikantji, you have seen all sides of the coin, so you have been from the training partner institution side to the state side, and today running an organization called Task, where you run through your programs with several universities and colleges. What have you seen been the change over the last 5 years in the categorization of the programs, delivery of the programs, and for that matter, the outcome which is coming out from the higher education system, or for that matter, the vocational education system? And how do you see it could be further improvised?
Sure. Coming last, Shrikant is the opener, used to be the opener for the cricket team, but I am coming in last, so I'll still try to face the googly that you've thrown at me. But having said that, I think what is most important to understand today also, that all dinner time conversations across still happen on engineering itself. And if you look at, and I think the statistics would be similar across India, last year in Telangana, there were 62,000 courses, engineering seats available, out of which 94% were actually filled by IT, ITS, Comp Science, Electronics and Electrical, right? 94%. Remaining people didn't go anywhere. So what about gaming industry or animation industry? Hardly any people went in. Today, if you look at it, the industry is continuing thanks to the institutions. Though there are 139 universities, etc., who are supposed to be offering courses, but still today, working at a glacial pace, these universities' curriculum is also very, very extremely outdated, right? Being an executive council member of JNTU, when I even tried to push this kind of a program over there, they said, no, who will take this program? You know, our seats will not even get full. So this is the lacuna side of it. Now, if you look at the changes in curriculum, etc., I think a lot of changes have happened where, apart from the traditional skills, etc., that were being imparted, I think soft skills and other skills have also started coming in. The reason why I mention that is, for example, critical thinking is very, very important, right? That's part of it. But if you ask me, how does it apply? Let's talk about, let's say, gaming, right? When you talk about gaming, one of the things that you need to understand is look at each and every options, right? All those 1,000 options have to be thought by you. That can only happen if you can analyze critically the entire situation and then come up with solutions. So such kind of elements definitely have started happening in the program itself. Now, if you look at internships and apprenticeship, right? Government of India is also going to go about it. And I think this is one area where, seeing the skills report itself and the policy document, I think a lot of emphasis is going to be given in the future also. I think these kind of programs were not there in the past. It was more of a tick in the box kind of an attitude. Internships, apprenticeship, the changing of curriculum. Now, we know that people don't hire you for knowing the definition of a screwdriver, but you should know also how to use one. And that is where craft, technology, tools, etc., everything comes into play. If you see the programs that are being offered today now, and especially whatever you are offering through your, the Sector Skills Council itself, I think that's a phenomenal effort that is happening over there, where you have created program based on the industry's needs itself, and you're offering it to the public at large, which is a major change. So if you look at the last 5 years, I think these are some of the changes that I have witnessed. And moving ahead, one thing which I would like to definitely see is, today, if you look at it, 4,700 instructors certified over the last couple of years, right? That's what the policy document says. How do you multiply this entire thing? How do you ensure that more and more trainers become available, right? How do you share resources? How does industry, today the biggest challenge is, and this is a question, and any educators over here, I would like to leave this point with you. We as educators have failed in our job because one thing, we don't do career counseling of our students. If someone has got a potential, someone has got a skill towards creative, we don't guide them, right? That's point number one. Point number two is, even if they want to do in that, we tell them, no, concentrate on this itself. We are killing their creativity. Let them move towards that direction. Let them actually choose what it is. Why should someone finish engineering 4 years and then say, oh, I could have become a gaming expert because I love games, right? And that is where we need to ensure that we guide these students in the right direction. Is our curriculum up to it right now in the universities, etc.? Definitely not. But yes, we require. And industry academia doesn't mean that academia says, okay, please come and conduct job melas or job drives in my college. And that's the end of it. I think industry can play a huge part in curriculum revision, in process of practice, which is now a technique which is adopted by UGC as well as AICT. So these could be some of the things moving ahead also. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. Manveen sir, I'll move directly to you and ask you a very, very simple question. I remember my old days in the newspaper, I used to see advertisements saying require Max artist, Maya professionals, Adobe Photoshop geniuses of the world. And then gradually it shifted to we need animators, modelers, rigor artists. Even today, when somebody comes to us, he says, "Sir, मुझे animation के लिए माया आना जरूरी है क्या? Max आना जरूरी है क्या?" What do you feel is a software proficiency all about? And somebody who's a creative talent, does he get restricted to a software, or does he has a scope to use some other openwares and the industry is open to buy him out?
I think that's where our academic pursuits so far have gone wrong. We have focused so much on tools. Tools are, to my mind, quite irrelevant. If you look at the whole production cycle of any I'm talking about the gaming industry per se, learning tools is a 1 month to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks job. What is more important is learning production. That is something which is not taught. But that's the reason I said in earlier when I said that there is this gap between the industry and the academic institutions or the whole framework of education. Because today it's 3D Max, today it's more as Maya, could be anything. Tools change every day. In the at least the dynamic industry that we are in, they are changing all the time. You need to understand production. You need to have those creative sensibilities, or in case of gaming, design sensibilities, or engineering, everything. But how you do it is I would say the easy part. What you need to do again, that there are two aspects to it. One, and which is another reason why I feel that we have not really done things the way they should be done, simply because when you're teaching something, what are you teaching? You're teaching so that your end objective is that you need to achieve something, whatever the skill might be, whatever the course might be. Now, what is that benchmark that you're trying to address? I don't think in the gaming space, I'm 125% sure we do not understand what is a benchmark we have to achieve in any of the fields of gaming. If we don't know that, what are we training for? So we end up training only for tools, because what we have to aim for, which is the production sensibilities and qualities, we are not aware of. So we do what we are aware of, which is just the tools. And that's where I think, even I would say, we've taken 40 years to reach an IT where we are today. In today's date, we do not have the luxury of another 40 years in the gaming space to reach where we want to be, where IT is today. We can't do that. Gaming is the fastest, I would say one of the fastest mediums in terms of industry. India is non-existent. And it has a potential of being right at the top. And the only way you can get that potential is if we move away from this tools mindset and move into what is it that needs to be done and what are the levels we have to target. Because today it's a global industry. We cannot say I'm going to make only for India, or I'm going to make only for my state. Whatever we make in the gaming industry is consumed by consumed by people who have already consumed the products. They know what the quality benchmarks are. So we have to train people to reach those benchmarks, and tools will not do that. Tools, to me, in my mind, is irrelevant. We have to, and that is where industry needs to participate, to define what those benchmarks are, define what that roadmap of learning is, which takes you towards a certain objective of quality production. That is what takes time, and that is where you need to think of what needs to go into it. Tool training is not relevant.
Thank you, sir. And I hope this reaches to all the student communities who can really, get a lot of insights from your thoughts here. So thank you for that. Ashish ji, I would have a very small question for you. We position a word called industry academia. And when we say industry academia, there is a dash in between, if I'm not mistaken. And we believe that as a sector skill council, we are that dash trying to bridge between the industry and the academia with support of all our industry partners, leaders, and training institutions. It's been decades we have been hearing, industry wants this, academia is not able to deliver this. While every time in the forums we hear this and we talk about it, where do you think we are missing the bus? Why is there a misconnect, or is there a kind of opportunity we are missing out?
Well, I would say that even if we come to this forum in 2043, we will still discuss the same, because the gap will never, get filled. The very nature of our offering or our requirement is to learn from the gurus. And that's why, if you look at the film industry, why didn't they face a problem? Because there was no institution. But then they were joining and learning under the director and, under the choreographers. There was no school for choreography. There's no school for cameramen. But they were learning, and they actually are delivering world-class content today. So look at a chef. Even the chef has to teach the younger chefs, and it is a direct learning through the experience. And that's why we started, as Manvin said, we started on the wrong footing of learning tools to become, animators or whatever. The thing is that the mapping of skills to your job roles is something which is extremely critical, and that's what you need to really do a well-defined job. So I always say that you need to be an MBBS to become a specialist, because MBBS is at the base of the whole thing. So you need to do a complete foundation program to ensure that you are understanding what is ideation to script to screen. Now you do it with artistic foundation or a creative arts foundation. You do it with storytelling foundation, or you do it with a design foundation, because that's how your jobs are going to be really defined. The complete industry academia is required, because every new film that gets made in our space, somewhere they're writing a new technology also, and they find a new way of delivering those shows. And we were talking about even the digital studios, where we are trying to say this is again another form of delivery of the shot. Now this is where the industry academia has to be together, because those many areas of specialization would happen. At one point in time, we were doing cell animation with Oxbury cameras. That is that is gone now. So the new versions have come, but then the processes remain the same. And that's why what we need to do is to constantly look at how you redefine your programs. How do you really see the specializations are rightly selected and rightly delivered? And industry academia is talked about for our industry. I'm sure you go to any other industry, they will also talk about it.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to hear this from you actually. So good to hear it again and again. Thank you for that. Shrikant Saab, moving on to you, rather than you being the last batsman and again in the question league. So I thought, I'd like to understand from you what task has done so far, maybe for a wider audience to know about it. But at the same point of time, how do you see that a substantial difference is going to be created with the efforts which we jointly put in, whether in the skilling space or in the education space? And what do you see as the best case scenario?
Sure. Thanks for that. I think the very first thing is we need to popularize animation as a career itself, which is not happening today. So one thing that we are doing is, along with Twaga, my colleague Khaja is here, along with the STPI image COE, along with the industry itself, right? So you have Rotomaker, you have Green Gold, etc., and multiple other players also. We are trying to ensure that our students take this as a career option itself. And we are not doing it only in Hyderabad, but we are also going to places like Warangal and Tier 2, etc. The thing that was spoken about in the morning session also, because that's where I think native talent exists. How do you groom this native talent to move on to this thing? And that's where your craft angle gets covered automatically, because they would have that thing over there. Working along with the organization such as yours, of course, would actually amplify the entire thing itself, because already you are working with the industry. You have got the right kind of courses. Yes, I agree with the Mishkil Sahab also, because today, if you look at IT also, people are learning syntax. They don't have the the concept of computational foundation thinking itself, and that's where that is failing. We need to ensure that for our industry, AVGC industry, we ensure that we are able to build that thing over there. That can only happen, as the policy report also says, if you are able to identify students right from sixth class onwards and then keep on giving them inputs for the next 6 years. They'll not become animators straight from sixth grade onwards, but maybe once we give them inputs, by the time they reach the point of graduation, they can move directly into a career over there. And that's where I think we'll be able to really produce the required numbers and move in that direction.
Thank you. I've already got an indication that we have crossed our time zone, so I'll not take more than 3 minutes. Vikrant, one quick response from you. What has been Technicolour's effort so far to bridge the difference between the industry and the academia within 1 minute, and what do you foresee as additional support to the education framework?
I think the response to this lies in our partnerships with multiple institutes where we go out to hire from, to train. And I think this is only going to intensify as we continue to move forward. I think there's a greater opportunity to build in a part of our curriculum to the point that we're all making production ready, essentially studio ready talent. How do we ensure that we are present at the academia the last couple of years, building that kind of skill set which allows them to be studio ready at the earliest, and we can engage them into delivering projects sooner.
Thank you. Thank you. Samir, one quick response from you within 30 seconds. Give us a quick deep dive on the skill gap report in 30 seconds, because you have done it in 3 months.
Well, you have reduced my time further, but the skill gap report, as I mentioned previously as well, is not about a very tactical view of what the demand is and what kind of skills that are required. But as I said, look at it with respect to the industry development and cater to that, and create content in India and for the world. And also then from that view, go down to each state, because each state has a very different story to tell. What kind of incentives does it have for the industry to offer, the maturity levels, etc., etc. So the report that we are working with MESC for is basically a practitioner's guide for each state to take action towards its own role and its own aspiration to participate in the AVGC growth story.
Thank you, Samir. And I save my questions for the next panel discussion. But thank you all for listening to us. Wonderful audience, and a big applause for all of you. And my gratitude to the panel members for being here and answering all my stupid questions. But thank you guys, and love you always. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. We would now be presenting you the token of appreciation. Would request Mr. Mohit Soni to kindly hand it over to the panelists, please. Would request Mr. Ashish Kulkarni to kindly hand it over to Mr. Soni. Yes. A round of applause, guys. Can we have a group photograph, please?